What's up, everybody? My name is Psycho, and we're here live at Dragon Tactical Industries podcast. And today we have a special guest, Switch, one of my old Marine Corps buddies of mine. You guys know him as Steven. He also owns Switch's Garage. So if you guys give him a shout out or give him a like, a follow on Facebook, it's Switch's Garage. Switch, go ahead and say what's up.
What's up, guys?
Cool. Hopefully we get Tristan in here in the live discussion. So this is his page. If you guys need anything whether it's mechanics or what is it that you do, bro? So that way people can know.
So motor rebuilds, brake suspension, basic maintenance, custom work. We do body work. We paint. The whole works. Starting to touch the waters of detailing. So, just well-rounded, full-service automotive shop.
Cool.
Anything from lawnmowers, ATVs, cars, diesel, you name it.
And you are veteran owned, obviously, right? Being a Marine. So, so do you give any discounts for any of the veterans or any active duty? Like, how does this work? What part of town are you located at?
So we're located in Converse. If we're not mobile, obviously it's being ran from the shop. There are times where we are mobile, but yes, as far as the active duty veteran community goes, that is the majority of my clientele already. So we do offer them discounts. More than any automotive shop anywhere.
And you are, yeah. It says here that you're ASC certified as a mechanic too. So I mean, for those of you guys that he's just a YouTube mechanic or something like that. He's not. He's actually ASC certified. Went to school for it and all that good stuff, right?
We have A1 through A8. We're certified in electrical, AC, the works, everything.
Cool. All right, cool. That was your shout out for Switch's Garage. So again, guys, if you guys do me a favor, if you guys need anything automotive related, hit them up. Sweet. All right. So the reason why I brought Switch on today with us is because we're going to be touching a subject that a lot of us shy away from, right? Because we get caught up with our daily lives. Now it's being able to survive the concrete jungle, right, so to speak, like urban warfare. And everybody's like, oh, man, I got CQB training. I ran through cities in Iraq or villages, or you know what I mean. We're able to navigate and stuff like that. Well, that's when you were active duty, But now we're talking about, well, what if you're in a scenario like this, right? This is a quiet place too now. And most of the time, like, bad stuff happens. You're not gonna be at your HQ, your house, or your friend's house that has a massive arsenal of rifles and all your safety kits. And if you don't have any of that stuff, I mean, I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't. But most of the time, that's when stuff happens. It's when you're out and about. And I went over this a few podcasts ago, where it's like, well, if you're going to Fiesta, and obviously you guys saw there was a little riot that happened that one Friday, and there was just quickly like where everybody got pushed off. But you could be at your kid's baseball game, and here you go, something like this would happen. Now, obviously, this movie is more about a alien invasion and stuff, right? But if something were to happen, most of the people are just gonna be dumbfounded, where they just don't move, and they're watching what's happening. Right? And this is gonna go back to, like, even when you're in theater, right? You're overseas and you're in Iraq, and you get into artillery, inbound. And, most of the time, if you get numb to it, you just end up doing this, where you're watching it as it's coming up from the sky. You're just like, well, I guess it's my time, or you're just watching where it's gonna land, and then you run, if you have to. But the after effects, right? Now you got a lot of people moving around. I live in an area that it gets congested just to get from home from work, you know. So can you imagine if something happens and you go to your vehicle, right? Okay, so what's one thing first, bro? Like if something happens, right? It could be an earthquake, it can be, an invasion, which we're gonna go over here in a minute. It can be, a meteor strike, a natural disaster, or something, and you have two vehicles, right? What is something that you would do, Switch, in your expertise of planning and pre-planning for, an event that's out of your control, right? And you have two vehicles, and you're gonna would you separate like this, or would you stick together?
I
And
would, for me, I do this because I have kids, and my soon-to-be wife, she has her kids plus the newborn, so we don't have enough room in either the Corolla or the Runner or my truck. So I mean, if we take a road trip, take Dallas, visit family, going to the coast, wherever, um, definitely areas where you can be caught off guard of something. Um, I would pick two cars. I would have the other one following close if I wasn't lead vehicle.
I mean, look at this scenario. I mean, the two vehicles were completely parked in two separate areas, right? So,
So in a case like this, where their vehicles are parked in two separate areas, I would it would be the one vehicle. Be easier to get out, maneuver, get around. Not get out of the car, but it would be easier to weave in and out of traffic or a situation if there was one car versus two.
right. I mean, you have a lot of people just standing around, right? I've me and my little brother when Hurricane Harvey happened, we went down to the coast to go help out. Right, we went down to Rockport, I believe, and there was a lot of people that went down there to help, and there was a lot of people standing around just like this, or they're making TikToks or making videos on YouTube, and they're just in the way. And just navigating through traffic and then having barricades or like, oh, you can't come this way, you have to go the other way. All that stuff doesn't pop up in your Google Maps when you're driving down there. Being able to navigate, and that's part of my podcast from last week, right? We talk about being able to navigate. Let me see if I put that up. Yeah. So being able to navigate through the city that you're operating in, right? This is something different. I thought I had it pulled up. Let me see. It should be this one. That's episode 7, 8, 5, right here. All right, cool. So being able to navigate, right? The area that you're in. I mean, like you said, do you go to Dallas all the time? I mean, do you know like the back roads to get around and stuff?
I do. I used to live there for a few years. My family's spent the majority of its lifetime there.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm pretty familiar with Dallas and back roads and how to get around, especially on congested highways with all the traffic that they had in the last 10 years and now. So you definitely know how to get around there, how to navigate here. Um, I know how to get from here to there on back roads as well. Avoiding 35, avoiding 281, a couple different major ways you can go.
Right. And that's here with the adaptability and being able to navigate. Whether like us, like we're getting ready to go on vacation, right? And whether it's California, Florida, or a different state in general, a tourist area, right? Some of us won't be able to carry our weaponry, right? So, and that's another podcast that I got coming up, where it's like being able to utilize anything as a weapon if you had to, right? But in this scenario here, just being able to regroup with your family, that's gonna be priority
That
number
would
one, right?
that would be that's priority number one. That would definitely be a one car situation for me right there, hands
Right.
down. And I at that point it would go into if I need to push another car out of my way, can that car do it? Which car has the ability to ram it and keep going? Which one's heavier?
Now that's if you have to ram it right now in a
Right,
civilized
if you have
world.
to.
Yeah, in a civilized world where you just got people in the way, without you becoming part of the problem, because you can operate both ways, right? You can operate stealthy and just be like, you know what, I'm gonna blend in because the nail that sticks out gets hammered in, right? So at this point, you have a lot of people that'll get extremely aggressive, and against your one person, now you're just creating a problem for yourself that you don't need, by getting that aggressive, which is okay. I get it. There's going to be a time and place where you do have to get aggressive to get, let's say, I've seen it all the time. Whenever I go pick up my kids, sometimes I saw this one lady jumped a curve that was separating the vehicles because people were not letting her in because she showed up late. And she jumped a curve with her big old truck with it off road and 4x4 with big mud tires and stuff. And she was able to do it. And people were just like pretending like she wasn't there, looking the other way, and I'm like, just give her a little bit of space, and she can squeeze through. And they're like, nah, I'm gonna pretend, they're not there. And there's a lot of people that are like that, And in a scenario like this, where something bad is happening, whether it's natural disaster or in general, just something, and you need to get it there. I mean, sometimes you do have to go off road, and some of us that, like you said, you mentioned a Corolla. Is that vehicle obviously that vehicle is better on gas, but is that vehicle able to go off road? You just have to
Right.
pick and choose your battles. Like, are you gonna go off road and you're gonna stay off road, or are you gonna, you know what I mean? Like, you have extremes going on either way, right? You need a vehicle that can go longer distances. Like if you have a big giant monster truck with, freaking 40
Bullet
inch
cannon.
tires, that's all bullet out, like bulletproof out and stuff. Dude, if you got the money for it, go for it. But how far can you go, before it becomes a lawn ornament? Um, it's great. It's just a matter of, you know, being able to pick and choose your battles, right? Um, so in this scenario, obviously, rule number one is just to stay together and see if you can be able to move together as a unit and being able to get to your next plan, right? Your next plan of action.
Yeah, because
Um,
in a situation like this, there's no telling they're going to start blocking roads. Then makes it that much harder to regroup. And if a meteor is coming in, especially one of that size, I'm no scientist, but I'm pretty sure that would knock out communications in the area.
right. I mean, the first thing,
Satellites be going haywire,
right.
whatnot.
And then
So
obviously,
it
if you
definitely
if
makes
you
it that
if
much more harder to regroup too.
and then you have those friends that call you and be like, "Hey, are you okay?" And you're like, "Bro, I am still in the situation. I need to get out of the situation." You know, and we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, where it's like having a buddy system. Being able to meet up at a rally point, having a plan ahead of time, right? But again, sometimes you get caught, and in a situation you don't have that ability to do it, right? To have
Right.
that plan. Um, which brings me over to my next favorite movie, right? Red Dawn. You have uh, the invasion, right? The one that we're all waiting for, right? For now, in this scenario, you're at home. You're at your home base, right? And you get something like this. Now, if I saw something like this, I know my instant reaction is not going to be like, "Hoorah," and be like, "Oh, let's go to war." As much as I would love to, it's like, "Uh-oh, this is something serious." They got past our air defenses. They got past, like, there's a lot more powerful entities that are in charge of protecting our airspace. And if this is going on and they failed their mission, what's my little 556 or 300 blackout gonna do against a massive invasion like this? Now that's a me from my perspective, right? At that point, I would go more of a stealth route. But again, you wake up to this. What would you do, Switch, in this scenario?
So if I woke up, foreign troops parachuting onto our land, first thing I'm doing, I'm getting bags together, bare necessities. Um, Having the wife do that, getting the kids in the car, getting everybody in the car. Um, while she's grabbing that, I'm grabbing weapons, ammo, my gear, whatever the rest of the gear I may have lying around. Once I'm in the car and on the road, I'm headed to, a point where myself and my friends know, hey, this is the meat spot. Something bad's happening. It's out of the town. It's out of the city. This is where we're meeting. Uh, so for me, that would be that. I would send out a text to my friends, my guys, and be like, hey, you know, I'm on my way here. And at that point, I would wait to see who would and wouldn't show. Um, and then I would go from there. I can't, in a situation like that, time is of the essence. You can't sit around waiting on people forever. It's only a matter of time before, they parachute on where you're at. Now, if that's the case where they're already there, I'm trying to get my family to safety, away from a possible fight. So
Right.
that's
So
that's my outcome on that one.
now a lot of tactics have changed over the years, right? In typical invasions, whether you're, you know, active duty, retired, or whatnot, different eras, right? We have different types of invasion where you knock out comms, right? That's before you invade, right? You knock out all their resources, their water, their electricity, and then you block out their roads, right? So you pretty much barricade whoever you're going to invade. At that point, they're sitting ducks. They have no resource, they have no power, they have no water, nothing like that. So that's all. Before you even touch boots on the ground, that's just stuff that again, from what I understand, that's what normally gets done. So sending out a text, great if you can get it out, and
Right.
and if you get it out and you get a response right away, because obviously if they see it, they're probably hitting you up too, so they're like, yo, what are we doing? At that point, you don't. If you're asking that question, you're already too late to the game. You know. Um,
Wholeheartedly. That's why it's always good to have a place out of town to meet for if things happen. Um, that's just one of those things. The country that's wide open. That's a dead giveaway. So you probably might not want to meet up at your buddy's ranch where he keeps his cows because more cars, more attention. If something like that with an invasion going on, and they're landing troops, they're probably gonna have jets overhead. Their fighters are probably gonna pinpoint that and be like, "Hey, possible, such and such situation over here." Definitely something I would try to avoid. I would keep it more off the record than a wide open area.
right. I mean, we can nitpick every little scenario as far as like what you should do, what you can do, in this scenario or that scenario. But like you said, being able to have a plan ahead of time, if you
An
can
invasion
do
like
it
that,
right.
they would probably invade bigger cities. San Antonio, Dallas, Austin. Um, you know,
Definitely, bases and hospitals is something that's gonna be, a very, airports, bases,
the
and hospitals.
the faster
Anything.
they lock down the bigger cities, they have a fighting chance to lock down the smaller ones without much of a hassle. So
Right.
I would definitely be aiming for a smaller city in case an invasion happens.
Right. And then if you're not from a small city and you got a city person trying to come in, that's another issue. You know what I mean? Like, as much as we're like, oh yeah, Texas this and Texas that, you find out real quick that if you're not from a small town in Texas and you show up with your family of 5, 6, 8 plus their friends and their families, that's an invasion into their property. If you're trying to come in and escape the big city, and I'm not saying that smaller towns are not going to be welcoming, but it's just something you have to look at. Resources, which where we're going to hit an attack right now as far as um, resource, scarcity. If you're running to a small town, they already have a scarcity of resources. If you don't have, an area for you go to, whether it's a ranch or your mom's house or your grandma's house or the grandma's old property, and there's no water well. Water is going to be the biggest source of all time. You don't have a well in your land. Do you collect rainwater? Do you have a 50,000 gallon tank underground? That's on a what do you call it?
Filtration system.
Yeah, like a filtration system where it's always filtering. Um, you don't have these magic solar panels and stuff like that. Where you have a getaway, oasis that eventually would probably get taken over anyways. It's just one of those things that's like, and this is where I asked Switch, because Switch is more of that community person, right? Now, again, if we go back to this scenario here, where you're in the city and you're trying to make your way out, and you get stuck in the city, though, right? You get stuck in the city, and now you have to make your way out. Being able to survive. Hydration is going to be number one. Being able to find water, food, right, shelter, stuff that you normally would take for granted won't be there for you, because now it's like, well, do you break into a store to take the resources from there? No, because let's just say that it's not an invasion, it's not a meteor strike, it's a hurricane, right? Where last time, like I said, last time a hurricane hit, you had everybody evacuating from the coastline, right, into the major cities, and it wasn't so much an invasion, it was just a natural disaster that hit, and there's a lot of people that stayed, back. Oh, I'm not leaving my house. This is where I was born and raised, and I'm not leaving. Ain't no hurricane gonna pull me out, right? Tornadoes up north that get destroyed, and they have bunkers and stuff, just stuff like that, where you don't have emergency services right off the bat, and you like, what do? You have a problem with looters. You have a problem with the natural disaster itself. Any wounded, you know what I mean? Just medical supplies. That's another thing that you need to scarce out. Security risks, right? Let's just say you do have a plan of action, and you do have the perfect oasis, out and about, in.
How many people can you sustain before it falls apart?
That's something that I don't know, because I don't have that plan, right? So I'm more of that I'm a lone wolf, I'll hunt by myself, I'll scarce for my family, and this, that, and the other, right? And there's a lot of us that are like that, but we quickly realize, like, in a long-term plan, it's not good to be like that. You have to have community teamwork. That's how humans are able to evolve and adapt over time, whether there's a war, or whether you're not blind to what's going on around the world, right? There's wars all over the place, and there's conflicts, right? Conflicts are like lower level wars, I guess, so to speak. There's conflicts going on in all over the world nonstop, right? Just because they don't advertise it on the news doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because you don't see it on TikTok doesn't mean it's not happening. But it's the communities that stick together, that are able to sustain a longer fight, whether it's an invasion or whether it's a famine, that's how you're able to survive longer, in a longer period of time, and being able to have that security, right? It's cool, like, you have all these cool gadgets, and you have all this, Teslas and stuff. I had another video from Leave the World Behind, where the Teslas are driving by themselves and crashing into each other, right? You can find that one on Netflix. I'm a big, natural, end of the world type of movie person. Like, growing up, I grew up in church, and I was always fascinated by the rapture, right, and revelations and stuff. And but I mean, not saying that the rapture is not going to happen, or it's going to happen, or anything like that. But as far as, there's been plenty of times where there's been an apocalyptic level events, Pompeii, the volcano, right? The fires in Maui that just happened. COVID-19. I mean, those are all apocalyptic level events that we've survived and managed to. And there's a lot of people that didn't survive. My boy Tap Out. My aunt. There's a lot of I'm sure there's a lot of people that have been affected in one way or another. And it's not necessarily like, oh well, it's zombies, and stuff like that. But to have a plan, you need a community in order for you to survive. You know, how many of us were losing our minds? Being stuck in your house for almost a year and a half. Uh, Before you got allowed quotations to go out into the public. With a mask. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can keep going to where it's like, dude, you know, the limitations are put there, right? On the apocalyptic level, so you're not able to just go to the store and buy, Big Red Zero because that's your favorite drink, or you're not able to go buy a case of waters, or just stuff like that, or oh well, now the water has fluorine, or it has this, or it has that. There's little microorganisms in there, and what, you again, you can go on and on and on about what resource you're gonna be prioritizing.
The
Um,
train wreck in Palestine's a good one.
right. I mean, that's another one, a specific one, right? But again, security risks. Being able to have uh, a rifle, something of a weaponry. And again, uh, we talked. I haven't really pinpointed it, but I have talked to a lot of people in person at the arena as far as what a plate carrier is for. You need a plate carrier to keep the bullet holes out of you. You need it to hold the things to put bullet holes in other people, and you need also you need to be able to have something on that plate carrier that can plug up the holes on the people that you don't want bullet holes in, but have it anyways, right? So your medical aid, you need your arsenal, and then you need your protection for you, and the protection for your other people that surround you. So that's a big security risk if you don't have that, right? Like you mentioned earlier, having a bug out bag. How many of us can say, "Oh, I have a bug out bag for this"? I know our tax lady. She had mentioned last year towards the end, around Christmas time. She was like, "Hey, Cycle, what's your opinion on a bug out bag? What should I have?" And I was like, "Well, it depends on what you're doing. Is it an at home bug out bag, like where you have rations and you have stuff like that, or are you gonna be going to a location? Is it a 3D assault pack? Is it a 1 week assault pack? Is it a travel bag? Like, okay, if you're taking a bag with you, do you have jumper cables? Do you have a compressor that you can utilize your own power to be able to inflate your tires? Do you have what you need for your vehicle to be able to go from point A to point B? And then once you get to point B, do you have everything you need? And there's more than just carrying a hatchet and an e-tool and your multi-tool and being like, oh, this is all I need, and I can survive. Yeah, but you got your wife, your kids, your husband, that you have to look out for. Having tourniquets, having trauma kits, for each individual, and then extra for people that you might run into that you need to be able to render aid to, right?
Or basic medical necessities. Tylenol, Advil.
Mm-hmm.
Wrap, band-aids. You're out. Something happens and goes south. I always happen to have my gear with me just because it's the world's a crazy place nowadays. You never know.
Right. I mean, we went through that with COVID. When COVID happened, how many times did they tell you, oh, you can only buy 2 bottles of this, or you can only buy 1 bottle? They were rationing out, stuff. This happened in our lifetime. This is not something that we read about in World War II. This is something that just recently happened, and being able to have those medical supplies, basic, allergy medication, toothaches, or even a boo boo kit, like a little cuts here and there, being able to have the basic necessities, in a controlled environment, much less in a hostile environment, or in a highly intense environment.
Right.
I mean, what are some of the things that you would recommend to have in a bug out kit?
Um, you know,
You don't have to say what you have,
You can you
but
can pick up a small medical pouch, from Walmart, 20, 30 bucks. Put it in your backpack. Spare shirt, spare pair of socks, underwear, pants, shirt, whatever. I recommend pants more than sweats, or because there's no telling the situation you might be faced with. It could be cold outside. It could be hot. For me, no matter what, my bug out bag it's packed with pants, because if I got to walk through some tall grass, I don't know if there's an ant pile there. I don't know if there's a scorpion in that grass or a snake. So I always recommend pants for a bug out bag.
what about an urban environment where you're having to go through a city?
Again, for the example, say Quiet Place too. Let's say that meteor hits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Buildings are going to come down, cars are going to get flown around, et cetera, et cetera. I would still recommend pants, because you go out in shorts, you're trying to look for food, water, administer aid if it's needed. Who's to say you're not going to scratch a piece of metal or rub your leg against something, get a cut? Now you're facing tetanus, or something else. So always good to pack pants in a bug out bag.
Right. Just being able to adapt and be flexible with the environment. Whether it's urban, whether it's a jungle, or just in your vehicle trying to get from your safe zone or trying to get to your safe zone. Um, and like you said, communicating with your teammates, um, not
There's
being able
always
to
got
navigate. Well, another
there's always
commotion.
got to be a place if something happens where you know you can see something's happening. You always got to have that place to meet mutually. Whether it's your house or their house or a school or a playground. There's always some place you got to meet in case communications go down.
So it's always going to be just having that tactical mindset, right? Not being able just to stand there and watch the incidents happening. You're like, well, what's the first thing you need to do? Point of contact, right? Reach out, tell everybody, like, hey, man, do you normally do that for everything? I mean, what was it? Yesterday we had a thunderstorm. I mean, you could be like him, just enjoying the environment. It's like, oh, it's a thunderstorm. Do you check on your buddies right away? Or do you think that should be a habit that you do? Where,
It should be a habit. Hey, thunderstorms rolling in. Make sure y'all's flashlights are good to go, in case we lose power. I mean, obviously we're not going to lose communication, for a thunderstorm. But I mean, if I need to go across town to help out one of my friends, I mean, by all means, I have backup flashlights. I have flashlights for the guys. So I mean, I'm always ready in case we lose power and I need to have a torch at all times.
right? What type of flashlight do you use? Do you use a torchlight, like in your pocket, like a flashlight, or do you use like a lamp, like a collapsible
So I
lamp?
have I have a couple different flashlights. On the firearms, I have peg boxes, stuff like that. For my everyday use of automotive, I have your little security light flashlights. Bright, get the job done. Around the house, I have went on Amazon, even
Mm-hmm.
Walmart, buy those 10, 20 packs of flashlights, 10, 15, 20 bucks. So those are things I have lying around in case I lose power. I'm also a mechanic, so I'm fortunate enough to be able to have a jump box that has a light on it. I have lights that go under the hood of cars, so super fortunate for that. So, but like I said, if I need to go across town or down the road and deliver, 4 or 5 flashlights to a buddy of mine, that's something I need to be prepared to do. Communication is always key between you and your team.
Right. I mean, like I said earlier, right? Me and you talked on the phone earlier, and we were talking about how when it comes to communicating with people, and being a team leader, if put in a situation, yes, I can grab people that be like, okay, well, this person's really good at this. I'm gonna utilize him for this. When this person's good at this, he's gonna be part of that group, right? And if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, well, there's nothing I can add to the community, I'm just dependent at that point. I depend on other people to survive. That's something you need to question yourself. Like, what can you add to the community that adds value to, the survivability to where you're not just a handicap to the group, right?
Sometimes it's not about being a leader. Sometimes it's about putting yourself in a position to be able to help others, less fortunate in the community. That's just you got to be able to make those selfless acts
Right.
more available to people that can't. If I gotta, I live in a pretty close knit community. If the 70-year-old lady down the road needs me to give her a flashlight or whatever the case is, or she falls down, hurts herself, I have a bag. I have a medical kit. I go down. I can wrap a knee. I can wrap an arm, wrap a wrist, give her some Tylenol. She'll be good to go. Just selfless acts will carry you a good distance on its own.
Right.
So it's not always about being a leader. Well, you're good at this. You're good at this. You're good at this. You're good at that. Sometimes it's about being able to just help.
Just to be there, just to help, add value to the community. And if you're one of those people like me, who's like, nah, I'll worry about it when the time comes. And that's why, now we have this podcast where it's like, no, we're bringing it to light. That is a problem that we have, me being one of them. Do I have a bug out bag? Do I have a bug out? Yeah, I don't have a bug out bag. I'll be like, well, I'll resource it when I need to, right? But then when you don't have it and you need it, that's when you become resourceful, or should you already have it? I mean, that's something we all need to question and, be like, well, it's better to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And that's why I asked Switch to get on today's. That way, and again, I admire Switch for having a community where he can, grab his buddies and I've seen pictures of all these bikers and all these vehicles and stuff. And I think Teddy was the one who went to your house for a party, right? It was your daughter's, I think like a baby shower. And he was like,
baby shower that Teddy came out to.
Right, and he was like, bro, like, I didn't think about it, Bren, but Switch has a real community where he, like, if stuff happens, like, he's got a lot of support. Like, he's got a lot of people that'll, like, and it's not, like you said, it's not about following you, but it's like you're the glue for that group of people. That's like, cool, this is the point, this is the rally point, this is that. Everybody has a bug out bag, everybody has resources to be able to get from plan A to plan B, plan C, D, E, F, right? However many plans you got, whether it's short term or long term, but that's something that I feel like a lot of communities, whether you're an airsoft or a milsimmer or you're a survivalist, right? You're somebody who's always out, fishing, hunting, or, you're out in the mountains, or you're just an average listener, that just goes to work and does what he's told and then comes home and plays video games. Whoever you are, this is like a wake up call. Like, dude, you need to have, your people. There's a lot of people because of COVID that become introverts, right? And that's okay too, but being able to have a community that you can depend on when stuff.
Sometimes it's always good to have that guy who's always ready for anything. A lot of people joke around down this situation, zombies, invasion, whatever the hypothetical situation is. Sometimes it's always good to have that one guy that has answers and is prepared. It's always good to have a guy like that. I mean, not all the time, because sometimes they take it too far. But it is good to have these conversations, talk about it, plan it out in case it ever happens.
Right. So again, having a plan of action, having the proper community that's going to support your plan of action, having a plan to begin with, before doing anything, and being able to have the tools to be able to do all that stuff. So that's gonna be pretty much it for us tonight. Um, you got anything else that you want to add to that, Switch, before we sign off?
Um, if if you're gonna join a group of people and you have no skills, it's always good to stick with a guy and learn a skill, or figure out a skill that you may want to do in your future. It may not necessarily be something tactical. Just if you get into an automotive shop, automotive has a lot of different things. Painting has a lot of different areas when it comes to painting. Just if you're going to join a group or go do something, it's always good to pick up a skill. Never know when it may or may not come in handy.
Right. What about in regards to the concrete jungle navigation, or being able to survive a concrete jungle? As far as like you said, having a plan, adding to the community by having some sort of value to the group.
If I'm navigating a concrete jungle and it's myself and I'm in a position where I can help, I will help. If I can't, then I'm going to still do what I got to do to provide and protect, my family, my community, my friends. Um, that's what it is. If I have a couple of group of guys with me, we'll administer aid. More guys means more strength in a group. And that's, smaller groups may not necessarily want to pick on a bigger group.
Right.
So you can put yourself in a position to help a little bit more there as well. If it ever came down to something of this nature where I have, my 10 to 15 friends or 5 to 10 friends or however many friends it may be, that's enough for us to find an area, fortify it, control it, whatever the case is, and eventually expand on that, bringing people in to help them out. So it's always good to help and be of a help when you can.
All right, guys. So I mean, that's all we got for tonight. Until next time, I mean, stay safe, create a community, watch out for each other, because that's all you got at the end of the day, right? All right, guys. God bless everybody. Y'all stay safe out there.